Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bourbon Obsessed Bourbon News Podcast for Monday, May 12th. I am Ed from BourbonObsessed.com, also known on Instagram as Bourbon_Obsessed. I publish bi-weekly newsletters featuring the latest bourbon news and releases, and also do this podcast version for your listening pleasure. I am here again with my friend and bourbon aficionado, Dean Langdon. Dean, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful, Ed. It's good to be with you again. It's a beautiful day here in Kentucky, and I'm glad to be able to share my thoughts about bourbon with you, who has done all the research, and I just get to chime in. I love my role.
I think you've done some research too. I guess we're going to find out very shortly.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
So our listeners don't know, but today we're actually remote. We're not in the same place, and according to Dean's background, he's comfortably sitting on a beach somewhere while I'm just sitting here in a rick house.
It's more of a rum day than a bourbon day, but we'll get through it.
It's always Bourbon Day. All right, well, let's dive into our first story. The second annual National Bourbon Week returns to Bardstown, Kentucky from June 9 to 15, 2025, with an expanded lineup of experiences celebrating America's native spirit. Participating distilleries include Bardstown Bourbon Company, Heaven Hill, James B. Beam, Limestone Branch, Log Still, Lux Row, Maker's Mark, Preservation, Old Steel House, and Barton 1792. Events range from guided tastings and classes to Bardstown's famous Bourbon City Street Concert and other National Bourbon Day events. Tickets for individual events are on sale now, with new additions like the Mashup, pairing distilleries with local culinary partners at the newly opened Bespoke in Bond. And the full schedule is available on their website, which is nationalbourbonweek.com. Dean, are you going?
And so I won't be able to go because it's a full week, and I've got other things that week. But it looks like the sort of the highlight is on that Saturday, where they have samplings downtown and distilleries set up downtown. When I looked on the website, it looked like most of the activity was at distilleries during the week, and it's really on Saturday where they've got a band downtown and samplings and that kind of stuff. So, are you going to go the whole week, Ed?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be here. I think, as I think we had talked about this when the story had first come out, how it's going to be interesting because usually this week revolves around the releases of the Bardstown collection, which were for people that don't know, the bottles that are released, especially not really for this week, but for the Bardstown collection. The week actually came after the collection, which is what's interesting. And there aren't any releases this week. So that sort of got rid of what was the focus of what a lot of people did during the day. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I'm sure the distilleries will, still be set up to welcome people, and you can take all of their tours and things like that. And yeah, I mean, what you said, the Saturday is a big event. That's basically like a street fair, and the distilleries will be there for sampling. There'll be all sorts of other things going on. Then there's a concert that goes into the night, and that's all free. It's really good. And but there's other things. There's some classes as well, and some other events that are taking place at Brindiamo Penthouse, which is where the Bourbon Festival grounds are, and so there's quite a bit going on.
It looked like there were some really nice dinners at some of the distilleries, where I assume they would pair. Maybe that's the mashup you're talking about, where you've got local chefs working with local distilleries to put together wonderful experiences. That looked intriguing to me.
Well, the mashup is actually like a little miniature bourbon festival, so that's taking out at the Bespoke in Bond, which is opening downtown. It's an event space where the new Neat is, that's opening here in Bardstown, and that's actually opening very soon. And so that's going to be like a bourbon festival in there. So all the 9 participating distilleries will be there, and that will be paired with food. So that's got VIP tickets, and that's got general admission tickets, and those are available now. So there's sort of 2 days you can do the tastings. Because of the VIP experience on that mashup day, that'll be the opportunity, for more elevated tastings and probably taste some special things. And because it combines with Neat, I do not know for a fact. For the VIP, there's supposedly going to be some of the dusty pours will be part of the tastings as well as a little bonus. So
we'll see.
Really nice. It should be really nice. And
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
the first year for that. So we'll see how it goes. But I mean, I think it's going to be a really nice event in a brand new place. So it should be very cool.
Well, and it's just the second year of the festival. So, I'm sure they're still experimenting with different things and all these things sort of evolve and morph over time. So I'm looking forward to your insights about it once it's over so we can see what worked and maybe if anything didn't, how it could be improved.
Yeah. Well, actually, the Saturday festival that's been going on for years. So it's sort of a mix of things.
Mhm.
It's the National Bourbon Week, all the other events that are fairly new, or not fairly new, that are new, and then that mashup. This is the first year ever for that. But the Saturday events have been going on for years. So it's sort of a combination of old and new. But it's yeah, it should be a really good week. Oh, always a
Right.
good time in Bardstown.
Exactly.
All right, our next story is about MGP Ingredients. So, as we know, they're the parent company of Luxco and had a merger of sorts just fairly recently, a few years ago. And they're a major supplier of whiskey and spirits, including the Penelope, Remus, Lux Row, Yellowstone, and Rebel brands. And of course, they do a lot of contract distilling and provide source spirits for many, many brands out there. So they reported a consolidated sales decrease of 29% in the first quarter 2025 compared to the first quarter 2024. And the decline was primarily due to expected sales declines in brown goods and specialty ingredient sales. And it also led to a 31% decline in first quarter profit. And then the branded spirits segment sales decreased 4%. However, the premium plus portfolio sales increased by 7%, reflecting increased focus on MGP's most impactful initiatives across American whiskey and tequila categories, particularly the stronger than expected performance of the Penelope brand. The mid and value price portfolios each declined by double digits. The distilling solutions segment, which I believe is going to be the contract distilling and the sourced segment, sales and gross profits decreased by 45%, driven by reduced customer demand for brown goods, resulting primarily from elevated industry-wide barrel inventories, which we've been talking about on many
For a while.
episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, what do you think of all this?
Well, there's I see a silver lining here. Their profits were down, but they still had a profit of about $7.8 million. You always want as big a profit as possible, but we've been talking about distilleries reorganizing in bankruptcy or simply closing. Um, MGP isn't losing money; they're just not making as much money, and that's sort of to be expected. They reduce something we call CapEx, capital expenditures, where you're buying equipment or building plants. They reduced that by 38%. They had a $20 million increase in cash flow. So I don't know that they saw this coming, but they either did or they're adjusting very quickly, it seems to me, to deal with it. I don't know how contract distilling is obviously going to go down going forward. A couple other things they did though to create stability is they've got a line of credit. It was 400 million. They upped that to 500 million. So if they need to draw on credit as they go through the sort of the eye of the needle, they've now got that capacity. They've got authority to issue another $250 million in promissory notes for the next couple of years. So I think they're well positioned to ride through the downturn and they'll come out the other side, smelling like a rose.
Yeah, I guess I thought it was interesting when I read their press release how it's got all these declines and everything listed, but yet the whole tone is very upbeat, which I found to be sort of an interesting disconnect. But you're painting it as it isn't bad.
We'd like for them to make more money, right? I mean, in full disclosure, I mean, I own stock in MGP. So, it's taken a little bit of a beating, but they're not losing money. They're still making a profit, just not as much as the market wants them to make. It's obviously not a growing business right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess from what's been reported, so the focus is going to be on their premium brands. It would sound like because that's the segment that's going to do well. So Penelope, I know we see more and more from Penelope every year. So I assume that's going to be a major focus. Maybe we're going to see more premium products from the Lux Row side. I don't know if they're going to add other lines. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think we see Luxro and Yellowstone coming out with occasional new releases. They're not flooding the market with them. I think they're doing that very thoughtfully and purposefully. Um, I'm hoping they got some. They're sort of, letting the Penelope marketing folks rub off on them because I think Penelope did a great job of marketing that product. And so maybe that'll be a really good marriage because I know those folks are still involved in the Penelope side of it, but hopefully they're moving over to help with marketing some of the other products too.
Yeah, I mean, Penelope did a great job with everything from their beginnings as well, because they did it with a fairly low initial expenditure and sort of, focused on the younger bourbons that they could buy that cost less money and grew from there. And we know that's been very successful. I mean, as usual, the one thing MGP always, for some reason, needs help with is its own brand, the Remus brand, which makes very good whiskeys, but for some reason they just, I don't know, the public, it doesn't catch on. You take the exact same spirit, put it in somebody else's label, tell
Right?
them it's 9-year MGP at 125 proof, and they'll pay $150 for it. Put it in a
Flies off the shelves. Yeah.
put it in a Remus bottle for literally half the price, and no one gives it the time of day. I personally don't understand it, and it's worked well for those of us that enjoy that bourbon
Well, I
and
was going to say
like
maybe
it's
maybe we
reasonable
don't want to
price.
share that. I mean,
I
yeah,
know.
God forbid to be allocated MGP products, right, Ed?
All
But
right. Well, everybody forget that I even mentioned that then. But no, I mean they are sort of a hidden gem, and I do not know why people don't give them the time of day when they would give those exact same whiskeys great attention if they're on one of the other well-named known brands that's sources from them. But
that's sort of
whatever.
that's sort of the first rung on the ladder on bourbon geekdom, isn't it? Is knowing what MGP juice is and the fact that you can find it all over the place and
Right.
it can be really, really good. So
Yeah, it's very good. So anyway, well, I guess we'll see. So Dean's prediction is MGP is going to be doing great, and you should keep your stock and buy more. Is that what you're
no, no,
hearing?
no, no. We're not financial advisors. I'm just saying that we'll check again after next quarter's results and see if I'm anywhere close. Okay,
And past performance does not predict future performance.
that's right. No guarantees.
Nope. All right, we'll move on to our next story. And this is about somebody that we both know from the Lexington Bourbon Society. So, Sara Ahlgrim, formerly of the YouTube channel, or I don't know if she's completely formally of it at this point, but I think it's heading that direction. It's Bourbon Night, has joined Dark Arts Whiskey House as a spirit guide and the events and content specialist. She will soon be at Dark Arts' new brand home in Lexington's Distillery District, which is at the former site of where RD1 Spirits was. As far as its bourbon night goes, Chad Watson, My Daily Bourbon on Instagram, will be joining Chad Perkins as co-host. So that's sort of a little bit of a surprise, I think, to maybe not to you, but to me.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean I've we've both known Chad and Sarah on its bourbon night for years, and I'm very appreciative of what they've created and grown in the YouTube bourbon aficionado realm. Sort of sad to see them, I assume, go separate ways, but they're both really good at what they do. They'll be fine. Sarah's found a neat place there at Dark Arts. I poked around on their website some, and it looks like she's the third in a three-person operation, and I think she'll bring a lot to that. She obviously knows how to create content and do marketing through, it's bourbon night and all of that. I know that they've also started some accessory lines. They do like a simple syrup product and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what she brings to that shop, and I'm looking forward to it, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, in Dark Arts, I mean, we also all know Macaulay going back for many
Hmm.
years, back when he was at Wilderness Trail and then started Dark Arts Whiskey House. And, he's been a pretty much a one man. I know there's some people behind the scene, but I mean, he has done a huge amount of work, traveling the country, speaking about the whiskey, blending the whiskey, working on acquiring everything, and he's done a huge amount of work to build this brand, and it's gotten pretty successful. I mean, not it's gotten quite successful for its size and its relatively young age. I mean, you hear about it at the New Orleans Bourbon Festival. You know, his booth was very popular. He won a lot of awards, but his sessions that he gave and other things were all, very well attended. So he's grown that brand tremendously in a fairly short amount of time, and I'm sure he certainly can use the help of someone like Sara. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great thing.
Yeah, it sounds like a great melding of powers, if you will. Um, and that space, the RD1 space on Manchester is really turnkey. I mean, they could just rebrand it and it's good to go. So I noticed that on their website. I looked at their website yesterday, and it didn't really. I know it's not open yet, but hopefully they'll have a rollout of that, and we can all go by and say hi to Sara and Macaulay and everybody else there.
Well, knowing Macaulay, I know he's doing more than just rebranding that site, because I said something at one point about him moving into, and I forgot his exact words, but it was basically completely redoing it and turning. So it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna resemble anything of what is there currently. It's going to be a completely Macaulay dark arts kind of space. So I think
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what it turns out to be. But yeah, it's definitely not been turnkey. Just change the sign and walk in. It's going to be a
Yeah.
completely new experience, I'm led to believe. So
Even more reason to look forward to it coming around. So
yeah, no, it should be very cool. All right, our next story is from a little larger distillery. So Heaven Hill Brands has announced that Bernie Lubbers, known throughout the industry as the Whiskey Professor, will step back from his role as National Whiskey Ambassador effective May 1, 2025, which is a couple days ago, and transition to the new title of Whiskey Ambassador Emeritus. Lubbers, a key figure in the resurgence of bottled and bond whiskey and a longtime educator, entertainer, and advocate for Heaven Hill's whiskey portfolio, will continue to support the company through select engagements and educational effort. A former stand-up comedian, Lubbers has been instrumental in shaping whiskey storytelling and outreach, traveling more than 100,000 miles a year and presenting his popular Evolution of Bourbon show. He is also the author of the respected industry resource, Bourbon Whiskey, Our Native Spirit. And I just saw Bernie last night, as a matter of fact, so he's still actually quite hard at work.
I would imagine it's going to be an easing process, and he's not just going to stop cold turkey. There wasn't any mention of a successor, and I think I saw one of the things I looked at said there hasn't been a successor named, and so you would think that if they're going to replace, in quotes, replace Bernie, they're going to want that person to hang with Bernie for a while. And I don't know about just learning the ropes, but you can't replace Bernie, but you can certainly learn from Bernie Lubbers. And so I expect he'll continue, like you said, it's an emeritus role. He's not leaving, he's just slowing down. And he certainly has earned that. He is a whirlwind of knowledge, energy, I'm glad he's still going to be involved. It may just be harder to catch up with him going down the road in the future.
And I'm happy to give him some tips on how to ineffectively retire, as I have failed to successfully do. But I don't believe that he's basically being replaced by having different regional representatives, brand ambassadors. So I don't think
Mhm.
that his same central role is going to be replaced. So as he goes into his emeritus role, he'll still sort of be the central type person, I believe. Because I think we were doing the podcast then when Adam Edwards had joined. That was a couple months ago, and he's the East Coast brand ambassador, and they have a West Coast brand ambassador. So I think they have people in a lot of the other countries around the world as well. So I think it's going to be, more of like a distributed network. And then as he's in his emeritus status, he can, contribute, where needed. And
Mhm.
I don't know if there'll be another central person or or not.
That makes a lot of business sense, and it'll be interesting to see how they use him. Again, I'm sure he's not just stopping cold turkey, so it'll be interesting to see what uh, what what Bernie and Heaven Hill jointly decide merits his talents and ability and his presence. Um,
Mhm.
I'm looking for, I'm sure we'll still see him around on occasion, and that's always fun.
No, I think maybe we'll see him more because he's not going to, he spends so much time in other parts of the country that we don't
Right?
actually see him all that much. Well, maybe people see in Louisville see him more, but certainly not in some of the other.
Yeah.
But anyway, we wish Bernie's a great guy and totally wish him the best and glad he gets some more time to enjoy some outside pursuits.
Right. Right.
So our next story is from another distillery everybody knows, Buffalo Trace. So their Traveler whiskey, which was co-created by master distiller Harlan Wheatley and Grammy-winning artist Chris Stapleton, has been named the first ever official whiskey of Major League Baseball. This multi-year partnership highlights the shared American spirit of whiskey and baseball, with Travelers set to appear in game broadcasts, fan activations at the 2025 All-Star Week and MLB Speedway Classic, and in-store promotions nationwide. Bottled at 90 proof, Traveler is a unique blend selected from more than 50 tested combinations and is widely available at a suggested retail price of $39.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle. And I had reviewed that a while back whenever it came out, a year ago now, I don't know.
Yeah.
And stressed to everybody that Traveler is not a bourbon, so it shouldn't be, judged like that. It's called Traveler Whiskey. And as I recall, it's been a while, but I thought it was a significant portion of Canadian whiskey that was in there.
That's what I recall. I actually went and read your review again. Went through it, and that's right. That's what you thought, and you made it really clear. It's not bourbon. It's a whiskey. It's a blend of whiskeys, no doubt, but it was probably a good entry point for folks. And at least my brain doesn't associate whiskey with baseball or with sports necessarily. So, nice way to try and make an inroad into a market where you may not have a lot of penetration. If I go out to a ball game, I'm thinking beers and hot dogs, right? Well, maybe they can get some of those folks who wouldn't drink a beer to have a whiskey instead, and probably have to stop serving in about seventh inning stretch, but that's
That's what I
okay.
was
We,
going to
we
say.
do
The
that anyway.
concessions close at the bottom of the third. Yeah, you're not going to drink whiskey. I mean, you can, but drinking whiskey through an entire baseball game, although it's faster now.
It is, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's always a potential. I think the last time I went to see the Reds play, that you could get alcohol, you could get a bourbon. Um, you had to hunt for it, and it wasn't inexpensive, but it was possible. So just like anything else, folks, drink responsibly. We don't want you to be thrown out of the ballpark because you've had too much travelers.
No, and I mean, and honestly, Traveler. Well, I don't know what would be the best choice. I guess I would have liked to have seen the distinctive spirit of the United States be attached to America's game of baseball. So bourbon obviously is what I'm referring to, and the lower proof versions of that would be perfectly fine for drinking out at the ballpark in the on a a warm day or whatever. But I mean, Traveler, as far as a whiskey that's suitable to that kind of climate and people that might not be big whiskey drinkers, it's pretty well suited to that. I mean, it's lighter flavored. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, it's not a bourbon, so it doesn't have the body of the bourbon, the same sweetness. To me, when it came out, it got sort of blasted because people. That's why I was so strongly saying that it is not a bourbon because people were just sort of blasting it how it's not this, not that, the other thing. But it's not. It's like you're judging it completely differently. It was basically more of a Canadian whiskey, which is going to be a different flavor characteristic. So
Different profile, different, lots of different things. So, I tried to find out what the length of this agreement. It said it's a multi-year agreement, but that's all I could find. There's no place where I could find exactly how many years this is going to last. I did see his sort of background that Chris Stapleton, when he tours, he likes to stop and go actually and watch baseball games. So And that's a nice marketing hook there. I can see, the videos of Chris Stapleton with a glass of travel in his hand at a ballpark. Seems like the possibilities for baseball themed cocktails are almost endless.
Well, I mean, this is exactly along the same lines as all of the NASCAR and golf partnerships
Yep.
that we've been seeing. I think, yeah, it obviously makes sense. The distilleries are going after markets that have not been traditionally theirs. They're more of the beer markets, but the people that attend those events are certainly people that either like or are certainly probably open to trying whiskey. So they're recognizing that, and that's what they're going for. So it's not. Yeah, I mean, they've made big inroads in. I mean, golf is, and
Right.
Haven Hill's mainly been the golf side. I think I'm not sure I can think of anybody else offhand who's sponsoring golf, but I don't know for sure. Now NASCAR, there's at least a couple because there was.
Right.
We've talked about those. Luxrow's
Jack Daniels
probably
and
the
Green
biggest.
River.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Green
Yeah.
River. Right. So
Well, and really, I mean, kudos to Buffalo Trace for landing this market, right? If nothing else, to your point about, baseball games are shorter, but people are still there for a while, and so they're going to see a couple of several images of Traveler whiskey as they're sitting through a game, and that's what you're paying for.
well, I'm sure. So the guy's going to come down the aisle and either throw you a beer or throw you a traveler, pass it down the aisle.
Who knows, man? Telling you, RTD cocktails made with Traveler, it's going to be a thing.
Well, no, that could definitely be a thing.
Hmm.
Uh-oh. Remember,
Buffalo
ladies and
Trace,
gentlemen, you've
if
heard
you
it
use
here.
that, that's right. Buffalo Trace ends up doing that. All I want is the kudos. I don't need any retribution.
You don't need that. What you need to do is get the patent for it right now. All right, well, moving on. So, Good Trouble Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, founded by entrepreneur D.M. Robinson, is bringing its mission of blending purpose, culture, and community to Baltimore through a 2-day event series in partnership with Lamar Jackson's Forever Dreamers Foundation, the National Thoroughbred League, and Governor Wes Moore's Enough initiative. Highlights include the launch of the Forever Dreamers 8 Scholars Apprentice Program, a no-cost workforce initiative for Baltimore youth, supported by NFL superstar Lamar Jackson and his Forever Dreamers Foundation. It's on May 9th, so that was just happened, and the inaugural Good Trouble Stakes horse race will be at Pimlico on May 10th, so that just happened as well.
And I mean, Good Trouble is really a charitable bourbon. I mean, it seems almost like its whole reason for being is to promote charitable causes, and I'm fine with that. That's a great take on it. Um, I have not had a chance to try it yet. I know that I did see that they're now available in 40 states, so they're getting that national level of distribution. And I think it's wonderful that somebody is creative enough and has the connections enough to use, a bourbon to support good causes and charitable causes. And again, I think that's a nice sort of niche in the field that let's grow it. Let's use it. We know that we've got auctions that support like flood relief in Kentucky, and I know Buffalo Trace sends out has an annual process for charities to get allocated collections to raise funds. This seems a little more purpose driven, and I like the way it's heading from what we've heard in the last several podcasts.
I really like, I mean, they're literally putting their money where their mouth is. I mean, this brand is fresh out of the gate, and no pun intended with the horse race that's involved. They are basically a brand new, fresh on the market brand, and they're already getting involved in these things right from the start. So they're doing exactly what they said they wanted to do, which is great.
Yeah, and if they can keep bringing in um, folks like Lamar Jackson and their foundations and stuff, I can see building a nice big community of charitable organizations and supporters that sort of expands the reach. I just sort of like that model. Miss Robinson has put a lot of thought into this, I'm sure.
All right. Wait, that brings us to our last story. So I never saw the press release on this and don't know if it truly ever existed, which
It hasn't.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no press release.
and I've reached out to the Sazerac PR and had not received a response about this just to confirm it. So I don't like reporting things that I can't confirm, but we'll report it because everybody's talking about it. But it has that disclaimer. So multiple media outlets, all the big name ones, have been reporting that E.H. Taylor Bottled in Bond Bourbon will join the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection this year. As I said, I can't verify it, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll get... I mean, we're not going to get the announcement about the BTAC until the fall, so I suspect that's when we're going to actually hear about it. So there's also been the new E.H. Taylor label TTB submission that people have seen. We don't have any specifics about the upcoming release, but people seem to think it's going to be a bottled in bond, but we expect it to be of an older age. So if people don't know what the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection is, it's an annual release from Buffalo Trace. It includes the Sazerac 18-year rye, William LaRue Weller, Eagle Rare 17, and George T. Stagg bourbons, and the Thomas H. Handy rye. So it hasn't had a new edition in years, so it's very exciting if this is actually true. And, some special version of Taylor seems suitable, although also odd because there have been countless special releases of Taylor already that haven't been added to the BTAC. They just sort of stand in the Taylor line. So I find that a little unusual. But
so it is. I mean, I think the last formal edition was 2006, so almost 20 years. I've looked at articles in Food and Wine and Forbes. Both of those publications, along with Whiskey Advocate, had articles about this. The only thing I saw, Ed, that made it legit was a couple of them referenced an email from Andrew Duncan, the global brand director at Buffalo Trace, that confirmed this. So I find it odd that they would have him send an email to confirm it without doing a press release, but hopefully that's enough for our listeners to trust that there's going to be an E.H. Taylor and BTAC this fall. We're all on the edges of our seats to see exactly what it's going to be, right?
Well, trust yet verify. I mean, I don't know. I think it's all of those stories, the majority of them use the exact same stock photo, and all the stories are basically the same. So clearly there was some sort of a release that for unclear reasons was only sent to certain organizations, and that's an odd way of doing things because it's hardly like leaked when it went to like a lot of them.
Right.
I think it's all a little weird. So.
It's not how Buffalo Trace normally does this, right? You would expect them to be leading the charge with a press release and making a big deal about it. Maybe they were waiting for TTB approval, but I think they've got that. Do you know that for sure?
I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't get approved.
Right. So maybe we're going to have a 15-year E.H. Taylor, right? Or a 17-year. Surely they won't do a 17-year because they use that with Eagle Rare, but it'll be interesting to see what it actually turns out to be. And let's hope we're all not being fooled.
No, I mean, the good news is we're going to have no chance of being able to buy it, so it really doesn't matter. So I guess that's about it.
Well, we'll have a chance to bid on it at an auction for a charity, though, so there's that.
Yeah, there's that. But yeah, so look for it on store shelves in the fall, folks. All right, well, I think that about does it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Bourbon Obsessed Bourbon News Podcast. Be sure to join us next Monday for the new Bourbon Releases Podcast. We already have quite a few to talk about. Also, be sure to like and follow us at your preferred podcast provider so that you don't miss an episode. And don't forget to tell all your friends, too. You can also head over to bourbonobsessed.com to read the print version of my newsletters, where you can find links to press releases and full versions of the news stories mentioned in this podcast. You can also sign up to have my newsletters delivered directly to your inbox. While you're on my website, check out some of our over 300 bourbon reviews and over 50 distillery write-ups. Finally, I can also be found on Instagram at bourbon_obsessed and on Facebook at Bourbon Obsessed, and I'd love for you to follow me. Dean, where can they find you?
Folks can find me on Instagram only at Dean of Bourbon with underscores between Dean and of and Bourbon. And I post irregularly, but I try to share some of the things that I get to experience. Had a couple of tastings this week. Got to taste some really good stuff. And so please follow me. We appreciate everybody who listens to our podcast and who follows us on the socials. Thank you for having me on, Ed.
Thanks again, Dean. Have a great week, everybody. Cheers.